tutorial we'll be making the Athena handbag from start to finish. There are 2 strap options, braided like the red vegan leather option and plain like the floral version. You can use any material with this pattern and it's up to you if you want to use interfacing. I used foam interfacing on the floral bag and none on the leather. The bag is fully lined to the zip with a seamless finish and it's perfect for throwing your phone and keys into when you're going out. I'll link the pattern down below as it's available to purchase from my website now.
Okay, so you want to get all your pieces. So we've got 2 side pieces for the main fabric, 2 side pieces for the lining, 1 base out of the main fabric, 1 base out of the lining, and then we're doing the plaited version in this tutorial, so you want your 3 strap pieces out of your main fabric. I've also already put the interfacing on the main fabric for both the side pieces and the bottom piece. I've chosen to use foam. You can use anything you want. You don't even have to use interfacing if you don't want to. It just depends how structured you want the bag to be. And then I've got my 14-inch zip.
To start, you'll need one of the side pieces and the bottom piece of your main fabric. Before starting this step, you will need to cut very small notches at the halfway point of all the side pieces and bottom pieces in both the lining and the main fabric. So with right sides together, you need to pin the pieces together. Start this by matching the notches in both pieces and working your way out on both sides, bending the fabric around the corners and pinning carefully to keep the shape. I personally find it easier to put the pins in horizontally on the curved corners, but it's completely up to you. You want to sew all around the edge here, joining the pieces together. It's easier if you sew with the base piece up top, but you only want to begin your stitch where the side piece starts underneath. I've given all my seam allowances in the pattern booklet, so have a quick read through that before starting. It's best to take the curved corners of this seam slowly, even stopping with your needle down so you can pull the foot up and move some of the bulky fabric out of the way. Just take your time and remember you can always unpick if you go wrong. And then pin the second side piece in the exact same way as you did the first one. And then sew exactly the same as before. Just make sure to keep the rest of the bag out of the way so you don't risk sewing over anything you shouldn't be. Right, so you need to do exactly the same for your lining on one side, like I've already done here. And then on the other side, I've pinned all the way around, except I've left a gap between one corner and the middle notch. This is so you can pull the bag through the hole a little later on, so just make 2 seams and leave this section open.
Okay, so this is what you should end up with once you're done. Big hole there, put everything else nice and sewn together. Okay, so you want to grab your zip, and I find the easiest way to start is by pinning it at the end. You want to make sure that the closed end is just past these little bits here, and then you want to basically just pin the edge of the zip. So remember, you want your zip upside down, zip facing in, doing this all backwards, and then just want to pin it from the sides. Okay, so you're going to need to sew both edges. Now you don't want to go any further than where the side piece starts, so just get as close as you can to there. Start here, go all the way down, and then again finish where the side piece ends. Don't go on to the end bits.
Remember to switch to your zipper foot, as this will make your life a lot easier. And then just sew along all of the edges. Remember to only sew along the side pieces, don't touch the bottom pieces at all. We'll get to those later.
Okay, so once your zip's sewn in, it should be nice and neat with a gap at either end. Okay, so you want to take your 3 pieces for your braided strap. Now for this tutorial I'm not using any interfacing, however you might want to. I probably wouldn't recommend using the thick foam that I've used on a normal bag, but you probably want to put some sort of interfacing on this, especially depending on the thickness of your fabric. So if you're using something really thick, like leather or like denim or something like that, you might not need any. Again, it's just completely up to you, it depends what kind of finish you want. So you want to take all 3 and pin them in half lengthways.
If you're doing a single strap, then the method here is exactly the same, other than you're only using 1 strip instead of 3, and the seam allowance is slightly different. Check back to the booklet to find this out. Sew a straight seam along the whole edge of each strap. Check back to the booklet if you want to know the seam allowances. Using a loop turner or whatever you find easiest, turn all 3 straps right side out and then use an iron to press the seams in place and flatten the straps.
Okay, so once you've got your 3 strips and you've given them an iron and they're all the right side out, just want to take a pin, place them on top of each other and pin in place. Now you then want to sew down here, and I would probably leave a centimetre. Yeah, so sew a centimetre away. Right, so I've got something heavy. This is a mallet, you can get anything you want. And I'm just putting it on the end right where I've sewed it. You don't have to do this, I just find it easier to then plait. And then you literally just want to braid it as if you're braiding your hair. It may look a little bit sort of bulky at the end, but we're going to hide that so it's not too much of a problem. And you want to just keep going. You want to try and flatten them out as you go. Right, and go as far as you can. And then just fold them all over so they sit on top of each other. And then you're just going to do the same again. You probably want to sew a little bit further down, just make sure that they all stay together. So I've sewed that there. It's plaited all along, sewn at the end. Now you can sort of play around with it and make it sort of neat. You can pull it apart if you want it a bit thicker. Right, so you want to take a pin. Pop the strap inside the bag. And you just want to pin the strap like that. So you don't want it touching these sides. You just want to attach it to this section. And then same again. If it's easier for you to do the zip up a little bit and sort of pull it through the hole. Make sure it's staying the same way the whole way, otherwise it'll be twisted. Just pull it through. If you need to fold it in on itself at all, you can, just as long as it will be sort of above where your sew line is going to be. So okay, now we're not going to sew them yet, we're going to move on to the lining first. Okay, so you want to get your lining piece and you want to turn it right side out. And then you're just going to tuck it in. You can go to one side of this, but just make sure it stays in. Undo the zip the whole way. And then you're just going to pin this zip, so find your middle piece again. No, you just want to go to the same place that you did when you did the zip the first time.
Place your zipper foot back on, and you just want to sew in the exact same way that you sewed the zip originally, making sure you're only starting at the side pieces and finishing at the side pieces. You're not touching the base pieces at all. If it makes it easier, just follow the original seam you did on the zip.
Now I just wanted to zoom in and show more clearly where we're going to sew. So we've sewn both of the edges now. And now you've still got your hole here. So you've got your strap, your zip, and your lining. Now you can see where you've sewn up to. Now you want to make sure that the seam line of your strap is higher, and where you've sewn to, you just want to sew straight along those two, joining them together, so that you'll hide the raw edges of all of this, and then we'll cut away the excess afterwards.
Okay, so once you've sewn both ends, I recommend slightly turning it to the right side and checking the zip and making sure it's all lined up okay. It took me a couple of goes to get this bag right, actually, because the zip can be quite tricky, so just make sure it looks okay. If it doesn't, it's no biggie, you can unpick it and do it again. Mine looks okay here, so I'm going to leave it. And then I'm just trimming some of the seam allowances just to get rid of some of the bulk, and then it's ready to be turned right side out. Okay, so now all that's left to do is to sew up the hole in the lining. So fold the raw edges inwards and then pin the side seam together, and then you just want to do a straight seam to close it up. I did this on the machine. If you really want to torture yourself, you can do it by hand. Completely up to you. And then your bag is done.